Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with the books I read in November, and I just have to say, I know this is going to be long, and if I am reading this rate of books in December, I'm definitely going to do a mid-month wrap-up and then an end-of-the-month wrap-up instead of compiling all of the books into one wrap-up, because there are too many here and it's going to be very long. I read 17 books, which is maybe a record for me. I know the page amount is fucking wild, and that's definitely a record. Holy shit. Let's get into it though. In November, there were 17 books that entered my life. 2 of them I did end up putting down, so they were DNFs. I had 5 that were off of my previous TBR. I reread 1 book, and then I had 9 books that I'm counting towards my Read What You Own challenge. If you're wondering why not all of them are, that's because I did have, I didn't count my reread, I didn't count my DNFs towards that, and there were some audiobooks that I had on hold previously before I started the challenge that I'm not counting towards that because I don't own them and stuff like that. So anyway, more stats. I read in total 6,076 pages, which is about 202 pages per day. I know, it's crazy. I read 14 horror books, 1 fantasy book, and 2 thrillers. The years these were published, the oldest one is not very old. It was published in 2007. Then I jumped to 2012. I had a book from 2014, 1 from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. I read 2 books from 2022 and then 8 new releases. So those came out in 2023. I reread the start of 1 series so I can catch up on it next month. And I started another series, kind of, although I don't know if, I liked the book well enough, but I don't think I liked it well enough to read the other book in the series that just came out this month. So, those are my stats. And now, what I need to do is talk to you about the books that I listened to on audio first, so I don't forget that they existed. So, first, here is Mary by Nat Cassidy, and this was published in 2022. This was a long book. It felt kind of long. It was it almost was like it had 2 parts to the story, but really we're following this middle-aged woman named Mary. She's in her late middle age. The big thing in this is she's going through menopause, and she feels like she's losing control of her body and her mind a little bit. She's seeing things that aren't there. She can't look into a mirror, where it's she's having acid trip face melty things, or if she looks any other women in the face, they become decayed corpses, and it's really freaking her out. She's worried about it, but she's not taking it as seriously as most people would. Some of it though is that she's seeing doctors, or has seen doctor, and isn't telling them exactly what's going on, and so she's getting kind of poo-pooed, oh, you're just going through menopause kind of a thing. But she's not really being straightforward about what's going on. And around this time, she loses her job, but this opportunity arises for her to kind of be a caregiver for her aunt, and this is back in her hometown, and she decides to do that, and things happen. I don't want to go too into detail with this, but things are strange in her home, or in her hometown, and she definitely gets involved in all this weird shit that's happening there. I don't know if you can hear my cat. He is really yowling. Anyways, my feelings for this are kind of weird because I felt like this was really long. I don't know if I necessarily loved it. I didn't hate it. I did that there was this 50-year-old woman as a character, which how often do we see that? Maybe it's the genres I read, but I don't feel like this happens very often. I'm not often reading about like 50-year-old women, especially like a woman with no children, you know what I mean? She's not married. That's kind of interesting. And so there were aspects of it I like and I thought were interesting, but all in all, it just like, it didn't really wow me. It felt really long. Like even as an audiobook, it felt really long. So I don't know if I loved Mary. Next on my list of another book I didn't really love, this is What Kind of Mother by Clay McLeod Chapman. This came out in 2023 and I was really excited to see this at my library and I rented it and I didn't love it. This is another book where it feels like it's two books almost, and this is about another woman who's like not young, which is kind of interesting, and she is also back in her hometown, holy shit, and she kind of reconnects with this old love interest of hers who has like a kind of recently tragic thing happen to him where like his wife died and his son went missing. And so of course people are like, oh, the son went missing and then the wife died. Like the wife had something to do with it, right? And he just keeps defending her like, no, this would never happen. She would never do it. And the main character here, she is doing like tarot readings, I think, or no, palm readings. So she like reads his palm and she has this like vision of something. And then the guy like locks onto this and he's like, you know something, right? You saw something, you know where my son could be. And it starts this like really strange chain of events. This is another one where it's like, I really liked some aspects of it, but in the end, it's like, I felt kind of bored. It was like, there's this kind of interesting beginning, this like weird thing in the middle that was okay, and then like the end was also just like kind of weird and okay. There were these bits of like the dad and the dead mother's past that like I don't think, it didn't mean anything to me. Like it didn't add anything to the story, I don't feel like, really. But one thing is, there's some really gnarly body horror in this that I thought was interesting. I liked it, and that's, I guess, all I have to say about it. Like, I didn't love it at all. I didn't love it. Okay, and then also, another book I didn't, like, I did not like this. This was Mr. Lullaby by J.H. Markert. This I got as an advanced copy from Libro FM, and unfortunately I got halfway through and I was like, why am I even doing this to myself? So I read about half of it, which maybe means I can't give a great synopsis, but for the most part, it takes place in this like small town where they had this like railway tunnel, but weird things were happening in it, so they just like collapsed it. And I guess it's like not used anymore, I'm assuming, right? Because how else could they do that? Or maybe they didn't collapse it, but they like sealed it up. It's supposed to be inaccessible. And at the very beginning of the book, they like find bodies near it and they're like, what the fuck? And it's weird because it's like, oh, well, this person has the, what do they call them? The, what do they call it? When the serial killer has fanciful things that they do. Fuck. I know this always happens to me when I'm doing this. It's like just a total brain fart, and then I'm editing and I'm like, you idiot, it's this. The markings of, it's not trophies. Why does my brain keep wanting to say it? They have these telltale signs of different murders that are happening. But it's like, this person looks like it was killed by this person, and this person looks like it was killed by this other person though, but they're like both found there at the same time. It's kind of weird. Also, there's like these people in comas, and like that has to do with it a little bit. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but like there's just like there's like this one aspect of it that's just really fucking goofy in a way that's like, I don't think this is supposed to be comical, but it's just really goofy as fuck and like stupid. And I don't mean to be mean, but it's like, This is just weird. Oh, and then there's like this lullaby aspect to it, which also makes it just seem like it's supposed to be, I think what it is maybe this would be scary if we were children, but we are not children anymore. So like lullabies don't scare me anymore. They're not creepy. And like rhymey words, they're not scary. Rhymey words don't scare me. And I really want to say it. So this is maybe like a little bit spoilery. So skip ahead. What will I hold up when I'm done? This cute bookmark that's also a corgi butt. So skip forward until I'm holding this up again if you don't want to hear. But I think the fucking goofiest thing is that there's literally like a bus full of villains like driving around, and it's like they just keep picking up more villains to be on their bus, and it's so dumb. It's just like the silliest, dumbest thing ever. Okay, now I'm done with my spoiler. So sorry. I had to talk to somebody about it, you know what I mean? It's very silly. I didn't find any of that spooky at all. And I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit mean, but it's just like, it seems to me to be low effort. It just reminds me of like, I don't know, the Bye-Bye Man or something like that, or like some aspects of it are a little bit Dr. Sleepish, but like not scary at all. I don't know. I did not like it. I listened to about half of it and I was like, you're torturing yourself. And then I put it down. So that's that book. I talked too long about it. To end my audiobooks off on a better note, I also read Natural Beauty by, her name is pronounced Ling Huang. And boy, this was a trip. This is a new release and I really liked the audio. I thought the narrator was perfect for the role. She is a young woman, like college age, and she's really struggling. She's got, I don't know, she's got a lot of shit that she's dealing with and she's like doing marvelous at it, but it's like the world keeps beating her down kind of, and there's no escape from it kind of. But like she gets a little bit of a advantage, like a little step up that will hopefully help her. And that is that she gets this job at this like really ritzy holistic store. I think it's literally called Holistic. And it's like a Gwyneth Paltrow level goop, but like sinister. It's like, you know, these people, they think that they're like doing great things for themselves, but like, what's the backside of that? You know what I mean? How are we attaining these products and things like that? But it's told in like a really almost like fever dreamy way. It reminds me a little bit of Lakewood by Megan Giddings, but like less on the fever dream, but like still just like this surreal, strange thing. And it's like, is this really happening? But it was just great from beginning to end. This book has a lot of like friendship in it, which I liked, and just some weird ass shit. Music, the main character is like a pianist who kind of falls off of it because of something that happens in her life and things like that. And it was just really fucking good. It was really good and I would definitely recommend it. I hadn't heard of it until, well, I think I'd seen maybe like a photo of the cover. I didn't even realize that it was like a weird book, you know, because it looks like maybe general fiction just from the cover. But then it was on the Goodreads scam award, which is just so silly. They don't even let you like nominate stuff anymore, which I think is just bananas considering. But I saw it on there and I was like, oh, this is horror. And then it was on my library Libby app. So I was like, oh fuck, well, I'll listen to that, right? And it was so good. So I would definitely recommend that one. And another one I really love this month I listened to on audio is The Wishing Pool and Other Stories by Tananarive. This is another new release and this was so good. Also, like, I don't like short story collections, really. I can maybe think of like 2 that it's like, oh, I really like this, you know? And so now there's 3. which is The Wishing Pool. I can't really give a synopsis for this. Obviously, it's a short story collection, but I will say that Tananarive too has this way of writing where it's like she's able to make you really familiar with everything that's going on in a really organic and also quick way. It's like you just are able to step into this story like it's not a story. You know what I mean? I know that sounds weird, and I know I'm not really explaining this well, but she's such a great storyteller, and I'm so excited to read her newer book, The Reformatory. That means she published both of these this year. Crazy, but that was great. I would definitely recommend it if you like Tananarive do, if you like really great storytelling, if you like short story collections, if you like things that are a little lighter on the horror, but also just like kind of weird. And a few of them were post-apocalyptic, which I really love. So if you like those, there you go. I really love that. And now on to, okay, let's see. Okay, I would like to tell you about Monstrilio by Gerardo, Samano, Cordova. This was published this year, and I really thought I would like this. It is about a grieving mother who takes a piece of her dead son's lung and grows it into a thing. And I read 100 pages of this, and it was another book where it's like, I don't even want to pick this up. Like, I have zero interest in this. And that's a dangerous spot to be in as a reader, I think, because that's where you feel maybe a little bit guilty about not reading as much as you'd like to. You're not enjoying yourself, but you're like staying in your like non-enjoyment for some reason. Like you're subjecting yourself purposely to like things that you're not liking doing, which means you're not gonna want to do it because you don't even like doing it, you know what I mean? And so I cut the cord. I cut the cord on this fetus. I was like, no thank you, lung. Not enough of it was about the lung. At the point where I was in the book, there was like really nothing about the lung so much. It was more focusing on this mother and kind of the father. And I think the weird part about this is that the characters just feel so disconnected from the story, like their own story. I keep seeing like, oh, this is so sad and stuff. And it's like, I didn't experience any of the grief, which the book starts out with her like son being dead. And like, I didn't feel any of the grief. Like, how is that possible? I don't know. But, I didn't like this. I didn't like any of the characters. There's not enough Monstrilio or the Long or whatever the fuck this thing is called. And I didn't like it, so I put it down. The end. This one I'm putting on hold for now. I read about 40 pages in this. This is, yeah, Little Girls by Ronald Malfi, and I felt myself getting into that area where it's like, I'm not really enjoying myself with this, but I think it was less the story and more like my mood. Like I just needed something that was going to pick up more quickly than this was. So this is just on hold for now. So my next 9 books here are books that I am counting towards my Read What You Own challenge. I've got 91 books more to read. So this is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This was published in 2022, and this is just like a slice of life, cozy fantasy story about an orc who was a warrior. She kind of worked with this band of, I don't know, not thieves, but they weren't like exactly like good people, but they weren't exactly bad people kind of a thing. But they're definitely doing murder, and she's like, I would like to do less murder. And she starts a coffee shop, which is something the people in the city she sets up in has never heard of. And it's just like a story where most people are kind and there's like friendship and like a nice love interest. And it was pretty good. The Shining Girls by Lauren Buekes, I think I heard her last name pronounced as. She's a South African author, and this was published in 2013. This is a thriller about a murderer who can time travel. So it jumps around a lot, which was a little bit hard for me. But it does refer to like the character who's like POV you're following in the story, and also the time, because it takes place through a lot of different periods, like the 1930s, like the 60s, the 90s. So there is a wide variety of places that we visit, which made it really interesting, but also sometimes a little bit too hard to be like, oh, who's that? When? Easy enough to flip back to, but it like didn't just come quickly to me. I will say that there is this thing he uses to time travel that's really not explained, and I wish that would have been, because it's like kind of a big part of the story, and I don't feel like it was explained really. It's like he has to murder these girls to be able to time travel, basically. But it's not explained very well, which I would have liked to know. But basically what it is like he is murdering these girls, and one girl he thinks he murders, but she ends up living, and she's like the one to defeat him, obviously. You know, she's like the final girl, and I really liked her a lot. Then another thriller. This is Survive the Night by Riley Sager, and this came out, was this 2021? Yeah, 2021. This one was also just fine. It's very run-of-the-mill, very Riley Sager, which I know a lot of people really love him, and it's like I don't dislike him, but this didn't seem to bring anything new to the table. But the main character in this is really like movie obsessed, which I did like. So she is doing like a rideshare thing with this person she meets at her college in order to get home because her best friend died, and she's having a really hard time coping with that, like her college best friend. So like she doesn't want to be there at that college any longer, and she's trying to find a way home, and she gets, this guy offers like, oh hey, I'm going home that way too, like why don't we just car ride, you know, we can split the cost. And she's like, perfect, this is exactly what I need. And during her car ride she begins to suspect that maybe this person isn't who he says he is, and stuff like that. So that's like really what this is about. It's a very simple plot. Of course it gets a little twisty, but I didn't think that, you know, when I got to the end of it, I was like, oh, that's, you know, you can kind of see it coming, you know what I mean? Me personally, of course. And that's it. Like, it was just fine. I didn't hate reading it, but not a favorite. This one, I did not like reading. This was mothered by Zoya Stage, and I think this is where I am done with Zoya Stage's books, for real. And I say for real indignantly because I probably wouldn't have even picked this up except that it came in a Nightworms package. So this is like the 4th book that I've read of hers, and I've only enjoyed one of them, so why do I keep doing this to myself? I thought that the trope in this, like bad mommy issue stuff, would be enough to keep my interest, and it wasn't. I didn't like the main character in this. I thought that her squabbles with her mother were like super immature. She was like really hard to like. It like starts to tell this message, I think, like towards the end, and it's like it expected you to pick up on that throughout the book, but like there really wasn't any part of that in the book that was like really planted in there. Does that make sense? It's like this book was, at the end, was trying to gaslight you into believing that this plot point had been in the rest of the book. I don't know. I just thought it was not good. It was not good. It felt so long, and it was just boring. It was very boring. I didn't like it. But one that really surprised me this month is The Ancestor by Danielle Trussoni. This was bananas. This is like this gothic horror novel that takes place in the Italian Alps. This woman gets a letter, right, saying that her she's like the last heir of this castle in the Alps. And she's like, whoa, this is crazy. I didn't know I had family there, and both her parents are dead, and she doesn't have any siblings, so it's like a chance to connect to more family. And she's at a rough spot in her life right now, like really a tumultuous time where big changes are about to happen, and she goes out there and uncovers some really strange family secrets. Like, I've never read family secrets like this one. It is so weird and like unexpected and delivered so well that it's like, this is so strange, and yet, is it? Is it so unbelievable? I don't know. This was great. Danielle Trussoni has a book that came out this year called, I think, The Puzzle Master, I think it's called. And I'm going to definitely have to pick that up at some point in my life when I'm done reading my 100 books. But I would definitely recommend this. This came out in 2020. A great winter horror, like pretty isolated spot in the mountains, snow, things like that. I really like this one. It really surprised me. Then also I have Little Eve by Catriona Ward. This came out, actually, I read that this was her debut. So this came out in 2018. But then it was recently like reprinted, republished by Tor Nightfire last year, I think. So this does make sense as a debut. Not that I didn't like it, but it's like, I think you read this and you can see how she has grown as an author, reading her more recent stuff. But this takes place, I think, in Scotland. Yeah, Scotland. Okay, good. This takes place in Scotland, and it's about this like little, very small community of people who worship the adder, right? Like this snake in the sea. But it's more like the idea of it, you know what I mean? But it's like headed by this man, and they all call him Uncle, but there's not really any actual familial relationships here. And it's like a couple children, 2 or 3 women, I think, and then like the man, which is like, if there is one man telling you you can't have relationships, you know what that means. It means he is fucking everybody and not letting anyone else in because he's got it made for himself. So we're following one of the children. Her name is Eve, of course, and she is kind of the one who is chafing against things in here. And this follows like a large span of their lives in this really short book. But in the very beginning, it's like in the future, and you know that everybody is dead except for one person. And so you get snippets of that one person in like present day, and then you get like most of this is like the past leading up to this. And I thought it was just told really well. Like, oh, she writes her characters so believably, and they just have these really interesting like quirks that's like believable. Like, oh, these are real people, you know what I mean? Like, they feel real. And I don't know how she does it. It's incredible. What a fantastic author. I will say the mystery of it wasn't super mysterious, but like that didn't ruin my enjoyment of this at all, because it's like you still kind of want to know why this happened, less about like, you know, I don't know, other things. And like the culty aspect of it was super interesting, and I just really loved it. I just really liked it. It was so good. Another book I loved. I think like the rest of these are all books I really love, so that is good. Also, I read Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This is my first time reading Rachel Harrison. This was published in 2022. We know right off the bat, this is a fucking werewolf book, which is something I love and something I don't read enough of, I feel like. But it's like, this really hits on all my favorite werewolf things, like the attack, right? The denial about what's happening, like the grief a little bit, then like the transformation and like the chaos that this brings. And It's just so good. This is about a woman who's bit by a werewolf and she tries to keep it under wraps, but she can't really. And so she's like going through this like kind of life change, and then also like this werewolf thing happens, so it's like hard for her to deal with, obviously. And then, you know, there's the mystery of who was the werewolf who bit her, because she's like back in her small hometown, and like, where did this other werewolf come from, you know, when she was attacked? So I really like this. I think that it's been a long time since I liked a main character so much. She was just so great, and I can't wait to read more of Rachel Harrison's books. Then this big boy. This is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman, and this was published in 2014. Let's find out. Will we? Wait, where's the... This was independently published, so maybe it doesn't... Oh, it's one of those print-on-demand books, so it doesn't really have a publishing page. This took me a while to read. You can tell it's like a little bit loved, but I did love this. This is like this dark fantasy, historical horror story about these three people from very different walks of life, and they meet up because of special circumstances, which is that there is a plague. This takes place in France, and we're following a knight who's had like his land stripped from him. We're following a priest who is a drunk, and then this little girl who sees angels. And it's like, at first they're together because they kind of have to be, and then it's because they have like a mission and a destination, and I won't give that away, of course, but this is really strange. Like, some strange fucking shit happens in this book, and it's so good. Like, the ending just makes my like heart hurt so happy, and boy, it really is a really weird story. Really weird. Lots of like religious stuff, but not in a preachy way. More like, you know, weird, like almost mysticism, stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe like how I can not like novels with religious stuff in it, kind of like The Conjuring, where it's like, I think what it is like hopeful religion, and or like, I don't even know what it is. I can't even. But also on the flip side, I love things, maybe it's the time period, I love things like The Boys in the Valley, Between Two Fires. I fucking love the movie, the Ken Russell movie, The Devils. The book, The Devils of Loudun by Aldous Huxley. I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it is like modern versus old religion, or I don't even know. I don't know what it is, but I really like don't like preachy stuff. I am an atheist, but for some reason I really love certain religious things, and also like deeply just dislike others. I don't know. It's a weird place to be in my head. Anyways, 2 more books left to talk about. The Terror by Dan Simmons. This came out in 2007. This is another historical horror, survival horror, great book for the winter. I mean, really, like, you plunk yourself down with this bad boy and you are good to go for an entire month. This I did listen to almost entirely on audio. It was my bedtime audiobook, which was perfect because it's like really slow and steady, like a very slower pace with like these little bits of dread sprinkled in. At the end, I was listening to it like much more quickly because it was getting like super exciting. I would be like at the gym at 5 in the morning, squatting 185 pounds and like listening to this book that's like, get to the top of the pinnace, Mr. Blanky, you know what I mean? Very funny, very funny nautical words. Very like spooky in some places, and the end goes in a direction I did not expect. There's like betrayal in this book like absolute betrayal between like not only the characters, but like stuff that happens even before they've left that is affecting them now. And it's like, oh, it's just such a really epic, fantastic book that I think is not for everybody because of the pacing and because of the length and because of the language. Like, it's very period piece. Like, how does Dan Simmons turn this other consciousness on, almost like this old sea captain inside of him? He turns it on to write this story. He's a wizard or something. Like, I don't know. It's so crazy, but oh my god, the payoff is huge, and I think this is like one of my favorite books of all time now. And then finally, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. A great story, dark academia that's like actually dark academia, and it is dark and it is academia, and it takes place at Yale. We're following a character named Alex who works, was recruited by this secret Yale society, and like her society is supposed to kind of like keep the other secret societies in check because they're dealing with different sorts of magic. Like, each house has a different type of magic, and hers is supposed to like make sure they're not hurting people and doing bad things, right? And there's like this murder mystery at the beginning of the story, and it's like the police are like, oh, the boyfriend did it, but she's looking at it and she's like, I don't think so. And so she is trying to like get to the bottom of if any of the other societies, they call them houses, like if any of the other houses were involved, like why is she being called off of it, you know, because like her house leader dude is like, it's fine, it's fine. And she's like, I don't think it is. And he's like, no, it's fine. And so it makes her more suspicious, you know, and all this stuff. But it's great. It's like cold and dark, and I really like this. This was a reread for me. This was published originally in 2019. So good. Can't wait to read the sequel. And those are all the books I read this month. Thank you. If you made it this far, I cannot thank you enough. But also know that next month, if my volume is half of this by halfway through the month, I'm going to do 2 wrap-ups because this is crazy. I don't even know how long I've been filming. It seems like forever. It's going to take me forever to edit it, which also, like, I don't need any more reason to like put off editing this because it's not good, right? I can't tell you how many videos I've trashed this year just because I have not edited them in a timely manner, and then it's like, this doesn't even have anything to do with anything anymore, you know? So I don't need more reasons to do that. I'd love to know if you have read any of these, what you thought about them, anything like that. Thank you for watching. Seriously, thank you so much. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.